Okay, so welcome everybody to the Dynamics and Power Platform New York City event, the first virtual event. This year's events, we have attendance not only from members of the tri-state community, but people from around the world. Um, we have a great lineup of presenters from the community, including current and former Microsoft MVPs and other industry experts. Later in the day, we'll post a link to a survey. And at the end of the day, we'll have a drawing between the attendees who submitted the surveys for a $100 Amazon gift card. Please keep yourself on mute until the Q&A portion of the session, unless the presenter opens it up for questions before that. So without further ado, I would like to present our keynote speaker, Phil Topness. He's a former Microsoft MVP and now the Principal Program Manager at the Microsoft Power Platform Customer Advisory Team. So take it away, Phil.
Thanks, Eric. I'm going to share my screen here and ask the obligatory question, see if everybody can see my screen.
We're good.
Seeing the screen looks good? Okay. So thank you everyone for joining on a Sunday morning to talk about Power Platform and Dynamics when you didn't even have an excuse to travel to New York City to do it. I mean, these are the committed ones right here. So thank you so much first for coming and showing up this morning. A brief introduction on me. My name is Phil Topness. I recently joined Microsoft in April. I'm on a team called the PowerCat team. On PowerCat, we work with the largest enterprise customers around the world and help accelerate their adoption of Power Platform and remove risk from their projects through architectural advisory and admin and governance consulting like that. So I've got two things on the agenda this morning. We're, of course, going to talk about the Power Platform roadmap and start off with that. But I also thought we should answer that question that I've been getting a lot in the last few months. What's it like on the inside of Microsoft? So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But let's first talk about the roadmap. And so if you are here, you've likely seen this diagram before. But if you think back to the last New York City event, there are some new additions, right? Like you've got Power Virtual Agents, wasn't here last time we met in New York City. And by the way, if you want to learn more about Power Virtual Agents, Dinesh is going to cover that at 4:50 today. And then we've got things like AI Builder, which is now in GA and growing like crazy. And then there's like, I don't know, 350 or 360 connectors. I don't know, it keeps growing every week. And then inside the Power Automate bubble here, we've got a brand new capability called Robotic Process Automation. Now, if you haven't heard of Robotic Process Automation or RPA, it adds in the ability to automate really any system you've got, right? Not just things that you can build connectors or custom connectors for, but really anything out there. And some people consider it like adding new digital workers to the workforce, which right now is important, right? With everybody getting pulled in multiple directions of homeschooling and caring for parents and family and just the stresses of life right now. The ability to add new digital workers using something that can control any computer program and that's tightly integrated with the rest of the platform, it's coming at a good time. And if you look here on this chart, right, from the moment it launched, it was in the Gartner's Visionaries quadrant, which talks a lot about how Microsoft is serious about making this platform the best platform broadly to cover business applications. And if you want to see UI flows hands-on, Haniel's going to cover that in the next session right after this at 9:30. Now, there's probably some of you here that are just getting into Power Platform, and if that's the case, your timing's good. The largest organizations around the world use the platform. Looking at Power Apps alone, 86% of the Fortune 500 uses Power Apps. And if you expand that to the entire platform, 97% use Power Platform. 90% of the Fortune 500, right? 97% of 500 is, I don't know, it's basically 500, right? It's a big number. And so in the short time, Power Platform has extended to every corner of the business, government, education, and even the nonprofit landscape. And with that comes the number of people using the platform and learning about it. If you look at here, right, over 3.7 million active citizen developers every month. And look at it from a Microsoft perspective, right? Power Platform revenue grew 5 times in the last year. And I like this chart, the number of people actually building and using apps. This growth between 2018 and 2019 looked pretty impressive. And between 2019 and 2020, it looked pretty impressive too. But look at this, it just keeps growing and growing. And the team I'm on, PowerCat, we're part of the Power Platform engineering team, and we work with customers like these ones here, the largest organizations using Power Platform. And I can tell you from what we see, these numbers are just going to accelerate. We're seeing more and more large companies with tens of thousands of employees and users relying on Power Platform to automate their core processes, a lot to build quick turn apps to respond to the pandemic right now. And then also looking for opportunities to add intelligence using AI Builder and to make them more accessible than before with Teams and Power Virtual Agents. And so if you are here just learning about Power Platform, the opportunity is really ripe for you to learn about this and how to use it in your own company and for the customers that you serve. And the overall industry reflects this too, right? 500 million apps are going to be built in the next 5 years. Now, 500 million is one of those numbers in business we just say, oh, it's only 500 million, right? But think about that, 500 million apps. So I looked it up. In New York City, there are 8 million people. So now think about New York City, and now imagine 500 million. That is more than 62 apps per person in New York City. How is that possible without a platform like Power Apps? And without everyone here in your teams to build them? It's not. Right? More apps than have been built in the last 40 years. And then you add into this growing demand for mobile apps, right? As we're all working from home and how organizations are buried in data and struggling for ways to analyze it and looking for the people to do it. This is why your time is going to be so well spent today on this Sunday, right? You're going to see how you can lead this transformation, whether you are coming from a technical perspective or a non-technical perspective. There is a role for you. So now let's talk a little bit about what's coming over the next year or so in Power Platform. And we're going to talk about 5 different categories. First, bridging the physical and digital world. How AI is going to play an even greater role in the platform. And then here, of course, front and center, right, is remote work. And then we're going to talk about fusion teams and hyper-automation, a couple of futuristic-y sounding things that are available today. So let's start about bridging the digital and physical world. And what this means is connecting our users and our customers through apps with the physical world. And now this doesn't necessarily mean HoloLens, although it would be awesome if we could all get a HoloLens out of this deal. That would be pretty cool. But it also means like just using like the device we have in our pocket to interact with 3D models and measure the real world and use that data to understand the importance of place through GPS signals and maps and geofencing. It's about creating apps that aren't just using the apps, but you're almost being with the app or even within it because it knows about where you are. And you'll see a sample of this a little later in the presentation. And then there's AI Builder, which was first generally available just last October, but it keeps growing. And if you've ever tried to build a machine learning model before AI Builder, it was an exercise for data scientists. You had to learn Python or R, and I learned R and built a machine learning model in it. It is not for the faint of heart. And now anyone can build a predictive model in just a few minutes. My favorite AI Builder model is forms processing, which takes like a picture of a form and it'll read it and extract the data out of it. It keeps getting better and more accurate and more flexible. You can like now drag boxes around the form. You'll get a chance to see how AI is integrated into the platform at 2:30 in Marco's session, and also how you could extend even beyond Power Platform by bringing in data through virtual entities. Mike Ox is going to talk about that at 12:15. And then here in the center, remote work, right? We're all using Teams more than ever, even right now while we're pretending to be in New York City. And so there's something called Project Oakdale, which is going to bring Power Platform and real relational data capabilities of CDS into Teams. And I've got a peek at that a little later as well. So then next, let's talk about Fusion Teams. And Fusion Teams may be something it's a new term for you. We're hearing this more and more from our customers. And Fusion Teams are the idea of low-code makers and pro devs working together on even more complex applications. It wasn't really that possible not that long ago. It's something really enabled by Power Platform because it's built directly on Azure. And so you've got the pro dev tools like build tools, application lifecycle management, the ability to use SQL to interact with the common data service, and growing center of excellence capabilities to give like tenant-wide visibility into everything that's going on. Now, if you want to learn more about pro dev extensibility, Andrew's going to cover this at 11:10 with the Power Apps component framework, and Rafael's going to cover Azure DevOps and deployment at 1:40. And then finally, there's hyper automation, right? This is the idea of robotic process automation, or RPA, to have a computer operate another computer program. You know, when you combine this across the entire platform, you've got new capabilities opening up. Like we have customers that will take a printed invoice that they get over email, use AI Builder to extract the data, and then use robotic process automation to key that into systems they don't own or systems that were too old to automate. And so this automates a complete end-to-end process and freeing up humans to do more value-add work than just keying in data. So our RPA offering is an extension to everything that you see here, and it's updated like sometimes 3 times a week. And if you add into that the recent acquisition of additional capabilities through Softomotive, which is adding even more capabilities and all within the existing licensing, it just adds more and more capabilities at your fingertips. And once again, you can see UI flows hands-on with Haniel at 9:30. So now let's flip to the other agenda topic. What is it like on the inside of the Power Platform engineering team, right? So I joined Microsoft in April, not that long ago, but it was definitely after COVID had kicked in. So I didn't get the classic photo in front of the Microsoft logo, right? If you can believe it, I actually photoshopped this picture. But I had this vision, right? Microsoft is certainly a strategic machine with a 10-year vision, building this crazy array of products, including things that we hadn't even dreamed we needed, but we definitely need to get our hands on right now. But there's certainly a stronger driver that I hadn't really considered until I actually got to see on the inside. Relentless customer focus. Now, I know this sounds corny. I totally understand how corny this sounds. I've worked for other Fortune 100 companies with names you recognize, and they all talk about customer focus. And I've worked with small companies where the connection between the customer and my paycheck was a straight line. But the customer focus I've seen at Microsoft, at least from the Power Platform team, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Now, the MVPs on the call have seen this in their interaction with the Microsoft product group. But like, for example, we've got a community called champions, and champions are people that use Power Apps so much, they pop up in the reporting and they get to join a special group where we learn from them and can help accelerate them with their organizations. I've had a champion ask a question about a very specific feature, and within a couple of hours, the developer that worked on that feature is responding and giving that individual an answer to their question. That's an incredible level of focus. It's what you would expect from a small company, but a company as large as Microsoft and a product that has millions and millions of users, I think it's amazing. And then add into this, like you've probably heard of this in the news, it's called Project Oakdale right now. The strategy was not baked years in advance. It was the result of seeing what customers needed at the time they needed it, right? As we're all moving to remote work, and the challenges of building and deploying complex Power Apps inside of teams with relational data and such, the team shifted strategy only a few months ago, changing the focus of dozens of people and creating a new offering that allows the core services of the Common Data Service to be used within Teams and allows Power Apps to really feel like they're part of Teams and be responsive with new controls and new capabilities. This is an offering that's going to be included with the Office 365 license. So this isn't even about selling a new license. This is about ensuring that people have what they need right now when they need it. Now, I thought some of you might say, okay, Phil's new to Microsoft, right? He's just spouting the party line. He's just excited. And so I asked some coworkers for their thoughts too.
One good example, if you're in the Maker portal and you get prompted for a 1 to 10 score on your experience, or if you're in the legacy editor and you get asked about your experience and why you needed to go to that view, all of these comments, they are reported monthly at product leadership meetings. It's a hugely important metric. It's part of every single product review, and if you're thoughtful in your responses, you absolutely will be heard.
What I love to see is number one, customers using our product, and I love to see that they are happy and fanatical about using that product. And in order for us to increase usage and increase satisfactions, it's important, it's critical that our customers tell us what things we're doing well, what things they love, or what things we're not doing well, and what things we need to improve.
Customer voice is the most important thing that we take into account when we determine what we're going to go and build inside of the Power Platform and on Power Automate. There's no other data source that's nearly as important, because ultimately what we're doing is building products for customers. That's why we do everything that we do. From our mission statement as Microsoft to our goal specifically with Power Automate to empower as many people as possible to build out automation in order to simplify their own productivity and their own business.
Power Platform's evolution and roadmap is fundamentally built on customer voices. They come in from a lot of different directions. We have a thriving community in our Power Platform community, in our forums. We have thousands of ideas and feature requests that are voted on there and actively discussed. We have closer community groups with trusted advisors in our customer advisory board, in partners and Microsoft MVPs, in Power Apps champions, influential makers that we've identified in product and listen closely to and work closely with on new features, in top customers and feedback we receive in the sales process and making Power Platform and Power Apps work at large scale and at small scale. All of those pieces of input and many, many more, local user groups, events, community content, they all sort of converge to inform what we're building and why we're building it and how we're building it. Now, that doesn't mean we answer everything all the time in the same time scale. The hard part of product management is not making that long list of everything that can and should and will be better about Power Apps. The hard part is actually saying no to most of it and picking the few things to focus on at a time that move the needle forward. We don't always get that right. But with the input of the community and with the process where we work together on it, we have moved the needle forward. And the amount of tremendous growth in the platform and the community that we've seen today, because of that kind of fundamental conversational process around how we build this, I really fundamentally believe that we are building this product and this platform together. Just because some people at Microsoft happen to have the hands on the keyboards that write the code that make the tools, it does not mean that the community itself is not an equal, if not crucial part of guiding what those hands do in the first place. And so we could not do this without you.
So customer focused, we're all focused on our customers, right? But in this case, that translates directly to community focused. You here right now, and events like this one, local, national events, local user groups, I promise you, your voice is louder than you may believe, right? You can change the product for the better, for all of us. And so for the remainder of the time, I'd want to focus on how you can amplify your voice. And how you can amplify your voice is actually relatively simple. Learn something, teach something, and help build the community. And I bet you're probably doing some of this. You certainly are. You're here at this event today. But your voice is strongest when you do all three. So let's talk about each of these. So learn something new today. There are 10 topics from introductory to advanced topics, and Power Platform is growing at a pace like never before. 3 years ago, you could know it from head to toe, but today you can't. Power Virtual Agents, portals, robotic process automation, Pro Dev extension into Azure, application lifecycle management. Even if you're deep in the platform, I bet you have not been hands-on with all of those things. And if you're here and you're new to Power Platform, you are not alone. With the amazing growth the platform has seen, there are more people learning it right now than there are experts. And as we'll see today, even for the experts, the Power Platform is changing and evolving so much that they're learning to stay on top of it too. I first learned Power Platform only a few years ago. I had a lot of experience in Dynamics, and I couldn't believe Microsoft was coming out with yet another platform for building apps. I was like, focus, Microsoft. And so I'm on the treadmill catching up on YouTube videos like I do. And I saw Ryan Cunningham demo and build a mobile app that had images and live connected data and interaction. And he built it in a few minutes. And the next thing I knew, I was standing in front of the TV with my mouth open, just fascinated. Now, I mean, it doesn't take a lot for me to get off the treadmill, but I was amazed, and I built my first app that afternoon. The people you see teaching others, even here, leading the way on Power Platform, I promise you, they're new at this too. And so I thought we should hear from a few of them and about their experience. And we'll start with the person I first learned from, Ryan Cunningham.
How did I first learn or learn about Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Platform? Well, look, I've got a unique story there. I came to Microsoft from a really small early stage startup company that was working on sort of a piece of what has become this connector problem in a different context. And I got to join this team at a time where Power Platform was in many ways a glimmer and a dream in the eye of many people, but had a lot less truth and reality behind it. This was a time when Power Apps was still officially a research project and pre-release thing called Project Sienna. Power Automate was a feature of that thing called Logic Flows and was embedded into the UX. And Power Platform was at best a set of PowerPoint slides and a future roadmap plan. That wasn't so long ago in the grand scheme of things. Sometimes it feels like a really long time ago, but really that was just a few years ago.
I first found out about the Power Platform back before it was called Power Platform, before it was called Power Apps, before it was called Power Automate. Back in the day, it started as something called Project Sienna, which was just a way to build applications for Windows 8. And it's evolved a lot since then, but really have been involved since the beginning. And I think that with the Power Platform, it's really evolved to meet something that can be a platform for the entire organization for any low-code need that you have.
My first Canvas app, oh my gosh, I don't remember which one was the first one. I do remember that we actually, not too long ago, we set up a Canvas app for applicant tracking. So it was kind of an applicant tracking system or app or whatever you want to call it.
The first time I built a Canvas app was at a hackathon in Washington, D.C. prior to an event just like this. And we had a hackathon the day before the event. And what we built was a Power App, Canvas app called Power Pac-Mania. And it was a Pac-Man-esque game built as a Canvas app. And we built that in a day. I didn't have any knowledge of Canvas apps prior to that. I knew about them. I didn't know how to use them.
Well, the first thing would be Power BI visuals, because I started using Power BI and creating analytics and visuals on Power BI with Dynamics 365. And that's been the hook for me to get me into Power Platform. And then I started going into Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate. So that's my journey on Power Platform.
About 4 years ago, when I was working in the SharePoint space, I was looking at ways to automate some of the processes. And at the time, SharePoint Designer was still around and still being used. But I started hearing about this new product called Flow and started looking into it. And next thing you know, I became a Power addict and I've never looked back.
I have been working with CRM and Dynamics 365 for quite a while. So getting into Power Platform was an obvious thing. The first exciting thing that I built on Power Platform was a custom tag control using Power Apps component framework.
I've really discovered the Power Platform at the end of 2018, working on a deployment project of Dynamics 365 Project Service Automation. At the beginning, I built some flows to automate some business requirements.
So I was a field service guy at Hitachi Solutions for almost 4 years. I was implementing an in-house field service solution, which came to an end in 2019 because we decided to switch to Microsoft's field service solution. So that's when I was told to learn and study for MB200 exam, and that was my first interaction with the Power Platform, and I got super excited reading about Power Apps then.
I really didn't start working with Power Apps or Common Data Service or Flow until a couple of years ago when Charles, our VP, asked me, hey, Ryan, you should come over and help us work on how we handle data within the Power Platform.
So there you go. No matter where you are in learning this platform, you're not that far behind these experts. The person that owns CDS has only been doing this for a couple of years. So if you're just getting started, you can soon be an expert too. Now, those of you that know me know that I can't do a talk like this without building something. And so I thought it's only appropriate that I learned something as well new about the Power Platform. I hadn't yet tried Power Apps mixed reality, and so I wanted to see if maybe, since we all can't be together in New York, although we're virtually in New York today, maybe we could use mixed reality to bring us all there. And so let's build something. And so I'm going to start here in the Canvas studio. I'm going to build a phone app. And once it loads, we're going to first do some settings to give it an icon and to make it landscape mode and all that. I'm going to be pulling models from GitHub too, and I'll show you where those are in a second. So let's go into the settings. Let's give it a name. We're going to call this NYC to me. And let's dress it up a little bit, right? That's the great thing about Canvas apps is we can really kind of configure their look and feel. So we're going to give it an icon, thanks to my daughter, and give it a background. This is going to be a landscape mode app, so I'm going to switch the settings to landscape here and apply it. And then in advanced settings, I'm going to scroll down to the really good stuff down here, the experimental features. This is where all the fun stuff is. And we're going to turn on mixed reality. So actually, you know what? Let's save it too. That seems like a really good idea. So let's save this here. And so the first thing I'm going to do, well, the first thing I'm going to do is actually rename the screen. And the reason I always start with renaming the screen is Power Platform has a ton of accessibility features in it. Now, it's not critical for this app, but just know that screen names are read out by people that are vision impaired. They have screen readers that'll read these out. So name them with spaces and real words to help them navigate your app. All right, so let's now, let's add in a gallery here at the top. This horizontal gallery is going to be kind of how we navigate our way through New York City. And so I'm just going to put this here in the center. We need to connect to data. We're not going to connect to any external data source using a connector. We're going to load up a set of URLs, and we're going to do that in the app onStart. And the onStart function runs whenever the app first loads. And so the first thing I'm going to do is create a variable. This is going to be the location of a GitHub repository, and this is where I've stored my models. And then I'm going to create a collection. I'm going to call it model data. Model data. And this is going to be then the list of URLs that locate these models within my GitHub repository, as well as some sample images and information about who actually created the model. So now with that defined, I can connect to that. There it is, model data. And then let's create an image so that we can navigate by image where we're going to go in New York City. Now we want this image to be about 200 by 200, so I'm going to watch the size over here, get it close enough. Look at that exact. How about that? This template cell is then going to be the shape of each cell in the overall gallery. So I'm going to slim that down. And then for the image location for this image, I'm going to point it to my GitHub, and then I'm going to add on each image location within GitHub, this item.image. Now that hasn't populated yet because my app OnStart hasn't run, but I can force it to run by coming here to the tree view and running OnStart. And then we see some of the places we can travel using mixed reality. So now let's add on a background color. Let's round these off a little bit so they're not too square. We'll increase the border radius to 150. And then also we want a border on each one of these. So let's add a border in, a yellow border. But we only want the border to show on the one that's selected. So we know where we're going to travel. And so let's make the border color a formula. And so here we'll say, if this item is selected, this item.is selected, make it a yellow border. Otherwise, make it a transparent border. Transparent. Now, whichever item is selected shows up yellow. Let's do a couple of other settings. We don't need the scroll bar on our gallery. We're going to be like flinging across it with our finger on our phone. So let's turn off the scroll bar. We want to see if there's more items here, so we'll turn on show navigation. And then now I think we're ready to put on a background. So this looks like an app. Let's add on a background image. It's starting to dress up a bit. Let's move this guy down. So we've got two more things to do before this app is ready to go. One, we want to give credit to all the artists that built these models and made them open source so that we could use them today. So let's put a label on here. Let's make sure that the font is a color that will show up. And let's center it across the entire bottom. Now for the text for that label, we're going to set that to be the source for each of these models. And so it's going to be whatever's selected in our gallery, gallery1 dot selected dot source. And then that will then indicate who created each model. So only one step left to go. Let's insert the mixed reality component that's going to do all the heavy lifting of changing that model into something that we can actually explore. So let's change the text here. Go to NYC. Let's change the color so it blends in a little bit more with the rest of our app. Put a gray background, yellow border. Let's round off those corners a bit too with the border radius. One more thing to do, we have to set the source property for this. And so let's set the source to be the GitHub base URL and then whichever model is selected in the gallery, gallery1.selected.model. That's it. Now we have an app that we can use mixed reality to help travel through New York. So let me save and publish it. And let's try it out. Now I don't have enough room here to actually use the mixed reality because this takes up some space. So I did a video so that you can see what this looks like when you try it. So we'll start here from my phone and load up the app. And we'll look through some of the places we can travel. And we're going to start by going on the subway. The subway's not here yet, so we're going to sit on one of these subway benches. And so I'm going to load up the model. And then we'll see the mixed reality control. It's looking for the ground. When you get those dots, you've got the ground, and you can place a model on it. And this gives us the opportunity to carefully inspect this subway bench to see what's an appropriate place to actually touch our body to. I mean, you've got the butt dividers, which gives you a certain level of comfort, but you still don't want to sit down blindly. And then our train comes, and so we can hop on the subway. Again, the mixed reality control loads. Once it finds the ground, we can drop our control, and now we're sitting in the subway car, virtually traveling to this virtual New York event right now. And look, we got an air-conditioned car, so that's good news too. That's a bonus. So where are we going to go? Let's go to Wall Street. Let's check out the Bull. So we'll load up this. Once the control sees the ground, we get the dots and we can place that there. Now we're standing at the foot of the bowl. We didn't even have to wait in the line full of tourists, right? Here we are, we're there. And you can see my dog can see mixed reality just natively, which is amazing, and this freaked him out. And then finally, we're gonna go one more place. We're gonna hit the Flatiron building, right? So we can actually feel like we're in the city, like we're actually in New York. So again, we get the dots, we'll place this down. And now we're on the sidewalk looking up at the building, right? No matter where we are. So if you want to try this app, you can download it at this URL, nyc2me.topness.com. This will download the MS app file. You will, of course, need to have a Power Platform environment, but you can load it in your environment and you can do those same things and travel and explore some of the NYC locations. That way, even though we're around the world right now, whether you're in Germany or Switzerland, you can be in New York virtually today. So that's what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn Power Apps mixed reality. Let's talk about another way you can amplify your voice, and that's through teaching others. I promise you, you are not too new at Power Platform to teach it to others. There are people discovering the platform every day. Every single day, there are people coming here and they're going in like just about their day, right? They're going up here and they're going to write an email or do an Excel spreadsheet or whatever else they're going to do in their day. And they click on that waffle and they see these icons. Whether you've been using Power Platform for years or days, you can use what you learn here at this event and what you learn on your own to help these people. Reach out to others, help them solve their problems. Show them what you've learned, even if you've only built your first app this week. And then finally, let's talk about building the community. And you here are already ahead of the game. You've discovered the community, you're here. So invite people to the next event and continue to participate in events like this. These events need volunteers to coordinate them. You can volunteer to speak, even if you are new at this. We need your voice. We need voices of all skill levels and all perspectives. So don't be shy about joining in. And virtually, you can participate too through Twitter, not just to learn, but make connections. There are hashtags like these shown here, Power Addicts and FlowFam. And as you're going through here, don't be intimidated by the MVPs and the heroes of the community. If you reach out, I promise you will find the most welcoming group of people. And participate in the online forums at this link here. I find it amazing that of all the traffic here, 90% of the posts to these forums are answered in the first 24 hours. And 60% of the questions are resolved in the first 48 hours. What an amazing resource of people that want to help you learn. They want to solve your problems. And you can come in here and look at the templates and the videos, people that are building things and giving it to you, hoping that you can benefit from it. So join in. No matter how you do so, there are a lot of ways to join in this community. So please make sure you share your voice, especially now, right? Here we are in the New York City Power Platform community, but in reality, we're scattered around the country or the world. They're pretty strange times, and they're affecting everyone differently. But we here, we are the lucky ones. We are all mastering this technology to our advantage. This is the technology that's going to keep us connected right now. So keep growing, get involved, and make sure you bring others along for the ride. Now, it won't always be easy, I promise. New technology and technology that's changing as quickly as Power Platform is, it's challenging. Power Platform is a technology like nothing else, and we are all of us are in a continual process of discovery. And there are going to be times when you're frustrated, and it may not even be the technology. It might just trying to explain it to your family and friends. I'll tell a story from my experience. So I joined Microsoft in April. So it's only been a few months, but even just last month, I was at the dinner table, and I've got 3 daughters. One of them is doing an internship where she's, for the first time, getting hands-on with Office 365, and she's using, Excel and Outlook and all that kind of stuff. And at dinner, she goes, "Dad, have you ever heard of Microsoft Automate?" And I'm like, I mean, I'm not hearing this right? She's not asking the question I think she's asking, right? Certainly my children listen to me when I talk endlessly about what I do. And I'm like, okay, I'll bite. "Emily, do you mean Power Automate?" She's like, "Yes." I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it, Emily. I know this struggle isn't unique to me, but anyone can be a citizen developer, so don't shy away from those conversations, even though sometimes I know they're a little frustrating.
My parents especially, I don't think ever have understood what I do. They've always said, "She runs Microsoft." And I was like, no, Mom, I don't do that. She's like, "Yeah, she does."
That's a difficult question, but I tell my kids that I work on the same technologies built by the company that built Minecraft, and they think I'm super cool because of that.
I've tried to explain to them what Visual Studio was, and I don't know that I did a very good job, but it gets easier now because I can go out and say, "Hey, remember all the stuff I created with Visual Studio where I actually did a data analysis and I would go out and look at big data sets?" I work on those exact same tools now, but they make it easy enough to where you can do it.
That's a great question. I'm still trying to explain to my mom what I do for a living. I just bought a front door from a business named Frank's Doors. I really envy Frank some days. Frank's conversation with his mom, "Hey Frank, what do you do?" "I sell doors." End of discussion. My conversation with my mom, "What do you, Ryan? What do you do?" I help business people make business software without writing business software." It doesn't have the same ring to it.
If I have to describe it to my parents, I would say that it's a platform that allows people like me who are not hardcore developers to create business applications. And more importantly, it has uses even in day-to-day life. Things like Power Apps you can create for things you do in real life every single day. And things like Power Automate, for example, if I want a notification every time somebody posts a tweet, I can do that with Power Automate. And I think the day-to-day use of the Power Platform is what got my parents excited about the Power Platform. And I think that's what excites a lot of people about.
When I think about how I describe what I do every day to my mom, I tell her, "Hey Mom, I help all sorts of folks around the world that aren't programmers build apps that run on their phone, that are backed by data, that flows to and through different people and their devices all around the world."
Here we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Power Platform is a set of tools to build applications, primarily business applications. And you can do it with low-code solutions, or you can do it with no-code solutions, or in the spirit of no cliffs, you can do it with coded solutions. But the platform gives you the ability to have a starting point for your applications.
Well, there's this book I read to my kids all the time, and I read it myself when I was growing up. It's Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And the first poem in this book is called Invitation, which invites everyone to come sit by the fire and tell their stories. And if I were to describe Power Platform to my kids, I'd adapt this poem, and I'd tell them that the Power Platform invites everyone to come sit by the fire and build apps and workflows. But at its core, Power Platform is simply about letting more people participate in problem solving. And that's something that's easy to describe, even to a 5-year-old.
So first, I have to thank my fellow speakers and my coworkers who put up with my annoying request for a video and the questions I shot them over. But I hope through all of this, you see that your time here is so valuable. Right? This day is going to help you, not just because it's going to help you get your job done a little easier, and not because you're going to be the first to see some new tech. But with your time here, you're adding your voice and your hands and your mind to shape a technology that has never existed before, and one that's growing like nothing before it, with a movement of millions of people. And so despite being virtual, make connections today. Learn something new today, and then share what you've learned with your coworkers and with your friends and with your kids that don't listen to you, with the online community, with Mike Ox's dog, and with Microsoft. As large as this movement has become, it's really just a collection of voices, and so please make sure yours is heard. Thank you so much. I can't wait for you to see the speakers that are lined up and enjoy the event. Thanks. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Phil. So we have scheduled, let me present again. Our next session is with Haniel Cortoro, which is turning up the power, introducing UI flows and virtual agent. We have this scheduled for 9:30. So if you actually have a few questions, if anybody has questions for Phil that they want to ask before we start with the next sessions, please go ahead. And if not, we'll continue in about 8 or 9 minutes. Feel free to ask a question or just raise your hand or put it in the chat window and we'll go ahead.
Was that a feel free? Was that a pun on my name?
Feel free, yeah.